Hello everyone, this is Father Joaquin Ibarra from the IVE Seminary in Maryland. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. The disciples had forgotten to bring bread, and they had only one loaf with them in the boat. Jesus enjoined them, "Watch out, guard against the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod." They concluded among themselves that it was because they had no bread. When he became aware of this, he said to them, "Why do you conclude that it is because ye have no bread? Do you not yet understand or comprehend? Are your hearts hardened? Do you have eyes and not see, ears and not hear? And do you not remember, when I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many wicker baskets full of fragments you picked up?" And they answered him, 12. "And when I broke the 7 loaves for the 4,000, how many full baskets of fragments did you pick up?" And they answered him, 7. He said to them, "Do you still not understand?" The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord, in Jesus Christ. In today's Gospel, we hear Jesus warning his apostles with the following words. He said, "Watch out, guard against the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod." We know that the leaven is a small ingredient, that it spreads throughout the entire dough, changing its nature. In the same way, false teachings and sinful attitudes can slowly corrupt the person's soul and even entire communities. And Jesus then is warning us about influences that, like leaven, can slowly but surely take hold of our hearts and leads us away from Him. But Jesus mentions 2 different loaves or leavens, that of the Pharisees and that of Herod. What's the meaning of this? The leaven of the Pharisees, it represents the hypocrisy and the false teachings. The Pharisees were religious leaders who appeared righteous on the outside, but were inwardly corrupt, spreading in the community false teachings. And the leaven of Herod represents the worldliness, the moral corruption. Herod and his followers lived for pleasure, ambition, power, far from the truth and far from God. These 2 forms of leaven are dangerous because they corrupt the 2 highest faculties of our human soul. The leaven of the Pharisees attacks the intellect because it goes against the truth. False doctrine leads to error and confusion. The leaven of Herod attacks our will because it brings the will to be attached to creatures, to the worldly things, making us seek happiness in material things instead of God. So Jesus' warning is, of course, to protect our mind and our heart. Our mind far from the false doctrines and errors, and the mind far from the attachment of material things. The fathers of the church saw this warning of Jesus in that way. St. John Chrysostom said, "By leaven he here mentions their doctrine, the doctrine of the Pharisees, which is destructive and corrupting, and which arises from their insensibility, their love of glory, and their hypocrisy." And Origen, on Herod's leaven, he said, "The leaven of Herod is not that of the Pharisees, who are puffed up with hypocrisy, but of those who rely on human wisdom, who are given to luxury, who seek after power and dominion, after pleasure, and who reject the divine word." These 2 temptations, the false religion, the false doctrine, and the worldly corruption, are as dangerous today as they were in the time of Jesus. And that's why we have to be careful against these temptations for our intellect and our will. The leaven of the Pharisees today is manifested especially in the relativism that denies the truth and is infiltrated in the church and outside the church, showing itself by ideologies, trying to change the principles of the gospel to fit into the modern ideologies, leading people into hypocrisy and away from the faith. As a result, there is the moral relativism, which denies absolute truth and creates a false sense of righteousness. We have to be aware and far from all these errors. Then there is the leaven of Herod today, especially manifested in that consumism, in that worldly attachment, the spirit of the world, that wants to lead our heart to be attached to the things of the world, that makes us think that our happiness will be in the material things. The spirit of worldliness is a constant temptation. Society tells us to focus on material success and pleasure and power. But if our hearts become attached to earthly things, we risk losing sight of heaven. Our sight has to be fixed in heaven. So what's our response to all this? Then, instead of allowing these corrupting influences to take root in our hearts, such as relativism, ideologies, consumism, attachment to the things of the world, we must seek the leaven of Christ, which is the grace of God that transforms us from within. It sanctifies us. This is the leaven of grace, which does not corrupt, but transforms the soul from within, making it holy. Instead of the hypocrisy of the Pharisees or the worldliness of Herod, we must allow the leaven of Christ to work in us, being faithful to the Holy Spirit. Let us then ask the Blessed Virgin Mary, our Mother, to protect us from these dangers. May she guide us away from the false teachings and worldly attachments and lead us to her Son, who alone is the way, the truth, and the life.
If you found this video fruitful, please feel free to share it with a friend or family member. Or if you would like to learn more about our missionary priests throughout the world and how to support them, please visit iveamerica.org. Thank you for watching, and God bless.